Welcome to the fastest stop in town. Today we're Zevachim Daf Lamed Gimel. We're going to begin on Lamed Gimel Amud Aleph, the second line from the top. Pardon my cold. Leim Masaile. So let's say we can support what we've been discussing up until now, as we'll understand what this is talking about as we continue. Rashi says this is actually a proof to Ula the Omer Bia b'miksa Shma Bia, that even if a person doesn't completely enter into the Beis HaMikdash, into the Azara, nonetheless, by even putting your hands in there, that's considered to be a bia, and therefore if you're tameh, that's also problematic. So the din is that kol smichos shahayu sham kar lehem ani takef l'smicha shchita, and this is one of the numerous places in which you have to do two things, one right after the other. As Gemara in Brachos discusses. One of them is immediately after you do smicha, because the pasuk says v'samach, it says v'shachar right afterwards. You have to do shchita right afterwards. Chutz mizu. This is the exception. Now, when it comes to the carbon asham of a metzora, it's not shaykh to be able to have the metzora do smicha, and also then immediately afterwards, a second afterwards, do shchita. Why? Shahayis b'shar niknor shem metzora yachal chanish l'sham ad shem mazen alav medam chatasai medam ashamai. So we know there's a process for the nazir to become, for the metzora to become tahar, and what he does is he puts his hands into the shar niknor, in which in itself does not take upon itself the kedusha, as we saw elsewhere, in order that will allow him to be able to put his hands in there, because otherwise we would say he's entering into the azara, which he would not be allowed to in his current state, because he's not completely purified. So because of that, the shar niknar was not sanctified with the kedushas hazara. And again, basically, as we said, he's standing there, and he needs to be able to put his hands inward so that he'll be able to have the blood applications. So Vishamoit Tzinu Asa Asham, Rashi says that over there is where the Asham will be taken. The Samach Halav, and he'll do smicha with his hands. But because he's not able to enter completely, so he's not allowed to actually go into the Azara, and we know that an Asham needs to be shechted, as we'll see actually in Perek Ezim Kaiman pretty soon, in the north. He cannot actually enter into the Azara. So therefore, because of that, it's a little bit problematic what he should do. So this is the one time we cannot do smicha then shchita right away. So back in the Gemara, he can't enter there ad until literally it's sprinkled. It sounds like on him. But Rashi says lo alav mamish. It doesn't mean we actually sprinkle the blood on him. Shein noisen al bahanais el madam ha'asham. Actually, we will put the dam ha'asham on his ear, his thumb, his toe, not the chatos. El shezarkin b'shvilo dam chatasai b'dam ha'shamo. What we will do is we're going to do the zrikas adam on the mizbeach of the chatos, as well as the asham, but the dam ha'asham is put again on these places. So that part is lav davka, but the point is that he's not now able to enter into the Azara. So v'yamrit bia b'mixas lo shema bia well yadav lismoich. It doesn't make any sense. If in fact we say that he's not allowed to put his hands in there, right? That's why not? If we hold bia b'mixas as lo shema bia, that if all you do is put in your hands, but the rest of your body stays outside, then he should be able to do smicha where he is. As Rashi l'toicha pesach, v'lismoich v'lishche eitzel pesach. He should be able to just do the shchita right there, right? The hakol psachim show yisham rechavan eser amos. So Rashi points out these are wide doors. They're actually 10 amos wide. The chamish mehem b'safin, the chamish mehem b'darom. It was divided equally. Half of the gate was considered on the north, and half of it was on the south. So therefore, we see some of it was on the north. Shapesach mechavin keneged pischay shel heichel be'emsa hazara. So again, it was like in the middle. The yochel lishchayt lifnei safayne shel pesach dahamlit safayn. So let him do the shchita right there. So apparently, this is only according to this one shita. There's different opinions. What is the north? Where can you do the shchita? So apparently, according to at least this shita, you should be able to do the shchita right there. So why don't we say that he could stick his hand in there and do this and do the smicha right then and there? Because the smicha and the shchita you have the smicha, so he has to do the smicha. But the question is, if you hold bia b'mixas is not bia, so then he should just be able to do smicha right there, and they could do the shchita in the north. Why is it necessary? Otherwise, it sounds therefore that bia b'mixas is bia, and that's the reason why he can't put his hands into the northern area, which is considered like the Azara. Okay, so that's the question. The Gemara says, "Rabbi Yosef, Hamani Rabbi Yosef Rabbi Yehudahi, the Emer Merchak Safin." So Rashi says, "Safin Hakasher l'shchitas kachi kedashim rachlik min haPesach Yosef mechap bezama." So not everyone holds that that's what is considered the Safin. Not everyone holds, Taka, that the Shar Nikdar has some of that space, that gate, by the north. Some hold it's actually 22 amos away, that the north is more north, right? Okay. Where it says, okay, so the Levid Pishbush. Why don't we do a Pishbush, some small opening, mamish, around the northern side? So instead of on this side, do it on the mamish on the north side, make a tiny little opening, so that this way he could do the smicha, the shchita, and everything right there. You can't do that because you can't change from that which we already have laid out as far as the structure of the Beis HaMikdash. Hakol bichtav miyad Hashem, olai hiskil kol malachis hatavnis, which we learn out that all of the structure has to remain the same. So even though it sounds like a logical option to make a pishbush on the northern side so that he'll be able to do this, you can't do it because you can't make these changes. Anyone who does smicha, you have to actually put your whole body in there. My timer, really, you could tell me that Taka, you could put your hands in, and maybe be able to mix this Mizlul Shema Bia, right? So that's true. So then why don't we allow him to do smicha right there with your hands inside? Because when it comes to smicha, it's necessary to put your entire body weight on the animal. And just putting your hands in there, even if you want to push down, you're not able to putting your hands, stretching them out, and then afterwards having the smicha b'chol koichai. You would need to have your entire body in there. So even if you hold possibly that mixas bia is lo shma bia, but to do smicha, your whole self has to go in there. And that's the problem. That's why it won't work. Okay, let's look at question 7. Be'ezeh carbon lo mishkachas la takef l'smicha shchita. So, of course, we're talking about an asham mitzayra. Okay. All right. Let's keep on moving. Let me just see what the next question is. Okay. All right. Let's keep going. So, Mike Sover, what exactly does he hold over here? Ik Sover smichas asham mitzayra deraisa. Do we say that doing the smicha on this carbon is actually a chiyuv deraisa, the takev l'smicha shchita deraisa, and also that you have to do smicha right away? So then the ayil, let him go in, v'lismoich, lehedir rachman amar. if midiraisa the Torah says that you must do smicha right before shchita, and the smicha of the Asham Mitzara is a chiyuv deraisa, so then the Torah is basically giving him a heter. Okay, it maybe doesn't make a lot of logic to us because he's not completely purified and he's gone through the entire process of tahara. It doesn't make any difference. If it's exeris custom is a din deraisa that he has to do smicha midiraisa, and it has to be done immediately before shchita, so then he should be able to go b'safai. So Amar Rabbi Bar Masna, you're right. Me'ikar din taka, he should be able to, because midiraisa we say he's required. Because there is shemiyarbe b'siyais. Says Rashi, l'achar shesamach, after he does the smicha, which the Torah requires, right? Midiraisa, and he must do it. Im yichnas b'sil etzad panim yaiser mishia tzarech nimsa anashkaris. The problem is, now that he's there, he may not necessarily get out. What he needs to do is just get right out. But what if he takes an extra step, even incidentally or on purpose, let's say? So now we're dabbling with the Isser Karis. We don't want to play games, and therefore we say, you know what, we're not going to allow him in there. Even though Midaraisa maybe is allowed. You're right. The Mitzara has to do smicha on Karban Asham. However, take it was smicha shchita lav deraisa. And since it's not deraisa, so therefore we don't have to do it right afterwards. It's a preferable manner, midrabban, we want to do it right away. But since it's not a din deraisa, so therefore we're not going to require him to go in a state of tuma. He can do the smicha, and then the shchita could be later. Meisvei v'samach v'shachat. The psukim, as we saw in Rashi before, they're written right next to each other. These two words, Dumas Micha b'tahirin, Av Shchita b'tahirin. So one of the things that we learned from here is that just like the smicha has to be done with purity, so too the shchita. Now, if you want to tell me that smicha and shchita, take of smicha shchita, is not a din deraisa, so betamin nami mishkachas law. So then we find, since it's not from the Torah, that even someone who is tamei. Look at Rashi. Usmicha de pshitalan ba mishum de kas lifnei Hashem. When it comes to smicha, it was obvious to us because it says lifnei Hashem. B'shchita de sricha shetei lifnim mishum de tekev smicha shchita. So chachanis asamach lifnim. That's why you have to enter inside. V'lamoy tamei b'machutz. So the tamei person stands outside. V'lis moich bifnim. We can't say that he can do smicha inside, as we say, because he has to do his entire body over there. Now, if it's true that it's not deraisa, so heichi pshitale smicha b'tahirin. So how is it so simple? Smicha by someone tar b'tmeim nami isa, just samach b'chutz. As we said, you can do smicha outside. Umachnisa tahar lifnim b'shoichet, and then a tar person will bring it inside and do the shchita. So again, if you want to tell me that smicha and shchita do not have to be right next to each other, we find that you could do smicha even if you're tamei, because just as long as you have someone who could take it from you, you do the smicha outside, then you bring the animal inside. So therefore, it's hard to understand that smicha, take of smicha, shchita smicha is not a din deraisa. Because there's a d'Rabbanan, and even someone tamei could do it. You can just do it outside, and then a few minutes later, a tar person can take it and then bring it inside to the safa and do the shchita. El ipuch smichas ashim etzara lav deraisa. Actually, it's the smicha which is not deraisa. Take a smicha shchita deraisa. So right, take a smicha shchita. We're going to have to establish the deraisa. But the other way around, the smichas ashim etzara is not a din deraisa. So therefore, we're not going to have him go into the Mesa Mikdash. Because there's no gezeres akasuv to tell you that he's allowed. Okay. Lamed Gimel Amud Beis. Ravina Oimer. So Ravina says like this: L'inyan Malkus Itmar. What's going on over here? So look in Rashi. Hadi Oimer Ula L'Eil. When Ula said his statement before in the name of Reish Lakish regarding Bia Mixus, that's only referring to Malkus. Kedikomer Loika Behedya. Avul Loy L'inyan Kares. in other words, if you would actually, so we asked the question, let's say you're a Matzaira. So a Matzaira is allowed to put his hands in there. What happens when he's a Balkari, where he's not allowed to? So then we say like a Matoich, he's allowed to do this. Dachi iskish bia wenigia azhara iskish. It's only as an azhara. Kediksiv lo savo avol anish lo iskish. Shein einish benigia. So in this situation, he would not be chayv kares. Okay. Kiyas Rabbi Aimer Rabbi Avo Inyan Tami Shenaga Kaidish Itmar. Actually, a different answer. We're talking about someone who's Tami who touches Kaidish. And with that, we have a famous machlokes. The Itmar Tami Shenaga Kaidish. Someone who was Tami who touched Kaidish. Reish Lakish Amar like Rabbi Yochanan Amar Eno like. It's a machlokes. Reish Lakish Amar like why? Because it says B'chol Kaidish lo siga. Anyone who touches Kaidish, it says don't touch it. So apparently that's a losase, which tells you that you're going to get malchus for it. Okay, Rabbi Yochanan Aimer Eno like it. What do you mean? That pasuk sounds pretty clear. It's a losase. Yeah, but hahu b'trum eksiv. That pasuk is not talking about kachim. It's talking about touching truma. Says Rashi. Kinemuchach si for the kra. It's pretty clear from the pasuk. It says ad malois me tahara she'ir of shimsha. Shitfus yoim oruch. Shetoivelos b'shvi laminta b'chol yimei tar shohaisa ketful yoim. Uvi yoim arboyim be'echad. On the 41st day, mevia karbana, she'll bring her carbon. U'menechsiv lo siga ad mulois. So that's talking about her not touching truma, in which at night, at Erev Shemesh, she could. Avu mishimimo yameha tiga. When the days are completed, she could touch. Because we know inyan kaidish ad shetavi kaparasa. We know from the first mission brachos that a person who's tameh can start eating the truma at sundown already, at Erev Shemesh. But the kaidish still not until the 8th day when you actually bring the carbon, because you're mechusar kapara, so you're not allowed to eat kachim. So this is specifically talking about truma. So you're right. When it comes to touching truma, before and you haven't achieved Erev Shemesh, so then you're right. If you touch it, it's the pasuk does say b'chol kadosh l'siga, but this is not talking about tami shenag b'kaidish. Reish Lakish high kro l'halchihu da'asa. So one second. So Reish Lakish is using this pasuk to tell you that if a person touches kaidish, his tamei, that he's going to get malchus. Is this what he uses this pasuk for? He uses this for something else. Someone who is azhar l'oichel basar kaidish, a person who has tumas aguf, a person who is tamei and he eats basar kaidish, not that he touches kaidish, but he mamishes eats it, but tumas aguf. So menayin reish lakish menayin. How does he know? Reish lakish aimer b'chol kadosh l'siga. Rav Yochanan aimer tani bardula asir tumaso mabias mikdash malahol and anish v'hizer avkan anish v'hizer. So apparently it's a kasha. We see clearly that this pasuk is not talking about, even according to Reish Lakish, someone who touches kaidish, but someone who has tumas aguf, someone who's tamei who eats kaidish. So tamei shenag b'kaidish. So how does he know touching? The pasuk does say the word lo siga. So as har la'achol mid iskish kaidish lemikdash. So he uses the hekish kaidish lemikdash, like entering into the mikdash as a person is tamei, or going in, eating that which is kaidish while you're in a state of tumah. That both of them, there's a chiyuv of bringing a carbon oil v'yared. So that's what it's referring to. Question 8 so far. Azhara la'achol basar kaidish b'tumas aguf menayin reshakish b'chol kaidish l'siga. Rabbi Yochanan aimer asked tumasu mabias mikdash. Ma nafke min ladina ben yoluf the Reish Lakish. What's the difference? So apparently, at least right now, you would think the difference should be, and this is actually not what we're going to say. The dafka mina should right now is if you touch kaidish while you're tummy. Tan kibas nereish lakish. Bechol kaidish lo sigam azhar lo achol. It's an azhar to eat. Because it says touching. Talmud learn bechol kaidish lo siga. Vel mikdash lo savai. It says you can't enter the base of mikdash. So makish kaidish lo mikdash. Going into the mikdash while you're tummy has the same dinim will be applied to someone who eats while they are kaidish while they're tummy. Ma mikdash davar sheish by netilos neshama. There's a chiyuv kares if a person enters into the base of mikdash while tummy. Have kaidish davar sheish by netilos neshama, which has to be eating, because v'im b'naiga, if all you did was touch it while you're tummy, netilos neshama miika. Is it shaykh to say that you're going to be chayim kares by just touching? Ella b'achila. Therefore, must be talking about eating. Okay, let's keep going. We actually use this pasuk for something else. Someone who's tameh who eats basar before the zrika sadam, which you're not allowed to do anyway. You have to wait till the kapara, the zrika sadam. So this actually is telling you that if you're tameh and you eat the kaidish lifnei zrika sadam, didn't mar tameh shachal basar kaidish lifnei zrika reishal kashem like Rabbi Yochanan ain't like it. Right? So it says it beferish. Lo shna lifnei zrika, lo shna lachar zrika. According to Reish Lakish, it doesn't make a difference if you ate it as a state of tuma, whether or not it was after or even before the zrika. You still get malchus. Rabbi Yochanan ain't like it. You don't get malchus before. Tani bar the last tumasai. He learns that the gzer shava chikasav ahu achar zrika. And that pasuk is only talking about after the zrika. So the question is, we actually see that this pasuk is applied for something else. So im kain lemer krab kodesh my bechol kodesh shmamin atarti. So maybe the fact that it says this lashon could be teaching us two things: that a person could be chayiv for eating kodesh even lifnei zrika, and the first one, eating kodesh stam, whether or not such an so we know is aser because we learn out the hekesh, but when it comes to touching kodesh, there we also have a machlokas. Okay, all right, we're gonna stop there. There's a little bit more to this, but let's stop there. Question 8 again. What's the nafkamina? Whether you learn b'chol kodesh lo siga, if it's talking about between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan, so the machlok is lifnei. If you eat lifnei zrika, Reish Lakish says you get malchus. Delo shamin and chiluk. He doesn't say there's a difference between after zrika, before zrika, even before zrika. If you're tummy and you eat kaddish, you still get malchus. Rabbi Yochanan says no. He learns out the ashar from an einish, which is only after the zrika. Okay. Question TA 13. Elu dal devarim. Maybe Gemara between Reish Lakish and Rabbi Yochanan from the Kaddish b'chol Kaddish lo siga. So let's see. First of all, we learn out from this pasuk. This is TA 13. Yeah, TA 13. Bia b'mixas. What is the din if you're bia b'mixas? Is that shmo bia? Azhara to eat kodesh while you're tameh, and azhara l'tami shenag b'kodesh, even touching. Azhara l'tami shach basar kodesh kodim zrika. So again, we just saw eating tameh. If you're tameh, eating kodesh basar kodesh before zrika. A person who is tameh who touches kodesh, again that's another machlokas. A person who eats kodesh betumas haguf, which is not really a machlokas, right? Azhara l'oichel basar kodesh seems to be everyone holds that you're going to be chayav kares for that because we make a hekesh kodesh mikdash. Is this question asking what is a machlokas? No, because it's not a machlokas there. And also did a bia b'mixus. whether it's Shema Bia. Let's see if I wrote any of those answers for TB13. Bia b'mikdash, okay, Bia mixus. All right, I write mixus Bia b'mikdash. Negias kadshim as betame, betuma. Achila lifnei zrikas adam, or uliak zrikas adam, and also just achilas basar kodesh betumas aguf. So those are the four things that they don't necessarily argue about everything, but those are the four times they bring down this pasuk. Again, we saw they do disagree when it comes to touching kodesh, whether you get malchus or your tummy, and also what the din is lifnei zrika. Adkan.